They whispered behind her back, before. But now, they whispered louder. Love had made her visible, and that scared them. The old familiar hum of gossip always seemed to find Elena, a low buzz that followed her like a shadow. But today, the hum had become a roar. It wasn't just about her height anymore, the 6-foot frame that made her a landmark in their small town. Now it was about her heart. The bell above the diner door jingled softly as Elena stepped inside, the scent of stale coffee and fried bacon hitting her. It was a familiar smell, one that usually meant comfort, but not today. A sudden heavy silence fell over the room. Conversations didn't just trail off. They were cut, mid-sentence, as if by a guillotine. She felt every eye on her, sharp and dissecting. From a corner booth, a voice sliced through the quiet, a harsh whisper meant to be heard. She's been spending time with Jake Carson, alone. It was Janice from the post office, her face a mask of feigned concern. Another voice, deeper and rougher, chimed in from the counter. He could do better than that giant girl. The words struck Elena like stones. Giant girl. They'd been calling her that since she was 12. A label that had clung to her, shaping the way she moved through the world. Head down, shoulders hunched, trying to shrink. She froze, her hand hovering over the sugar packets. The warmth of the diner suddenly felt suffocating. She could feel the heat rising in her cheeks. A blush of pure, unadulterated humiliation. Her plan had been simple. Grab a coffee, maybe a muffin, and head back to the ranch. Now, all she wanted was to disappear, without making eye contact with anyone. She paid the cashier, her movements stiff and awkward. Her fingers wrapped so tightly around the paper cup that she could feel the cardboard start to give way. Then, she turned and walked out, the jingle of the bell sounding like a final, mocking laugh. The world had always laughed at her height, but now it mocked her heart. The gravel crunched under her boots as she made her way back to the ranch, each step feeling heavier than the last. She tried to swallow the lump in her throat, to blink back the hot tears blurring the familiar path. The sprawling fields and wide-open sky usually brought her peace, but today they just made her feel more exposed, more visible. Jake was leaning against the fence of the horse corral, his back to her, mending a leather strap. He had a way of being completely absorbed in his work, a quiet intensity that she found both fascinating and calming. But as she drew closer, he straightened up, as if sensing her approach without even looking. He turned, and the easy smile he usually wore vanished the moment he saw her face. His eyes, the color of a summer sky, darkened with concern. What happened? His voice was low, gentle, but it carried an undeniable weight. Elena shook her head, forcing a weak smile that she knew didn't fool him for a second. Nothing, just small-town talk. She tried to sound casual, dismissive, but her voice cracked on the last word, betraying her. Jake didn't press, but he didn't let it go either. He took a step closer, closing the distance between them until he was near enough to block out the rest of the world. "Let him talk," he said softly, his gaze steady and unwavering. The louder they speak, the smaller they sound. His words were a balm on her wounded pride. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw nothing but genuine kindness. There was no pity in his eyes, only a fierce protective light that made her heart ache with a mixture of gratitude and a deep, gnawing fear. But what if they make you hate me too? The question tumbled out before she could stop it. The raw, vulnerable fear of a lifetime of judgment laid bare. Jake's expression softened even more, and a small, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. He reached out, not to touch her, but just to hover his hand in the space between them. A gesture of profound respect. "Not a chance," he said, his voice firm with conviction. "I don't fall for noise. I fall for truth. And I already did." Elena just stared at him, blinking. The world around her seemed to fade away. The whispers from the diner, the stares, the years of feeling like she was too much. It all receded into the background. In that moment, there was only the vast expanse of the ranch, and the man in front of her who saw her, not as a giant girl, but as the truth. Later that evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Jake found her by the barn. "Come on," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "I want to show you something." He led her to his old pickup truck, and they drove into town. The silence between them comfortable, charged with unspoken feelings. She didn't know where they were going until she saw the lights, the bright twinkling lights of the annual community fair. Her stomach twisted into a knot. The fair, the one place where the entire town gathered. A concentrated dose of the very people she'd spent the day hiding from. As they walked through the entrance gate, the cheerful sounds of laughter and carnival music felt jarring. And just as she'd feared, the stares began immediately. Heads turned. Conversations stuttered. Whispers followed them like a trail of breadcrumbs, leading right back to her shame. She instinctively pulled her arms closer, trying to make herself smaller. Jake must have felt her tense up beside him. He stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression serious under the colorful glow of the string lights. "You can spend your life hiding," he said quietly, his voice cutting through the noise of the crowd. "Or you can let them see you." And then, he did something that sent a shockwave through her entire body. He reached out and took her hand, not tentatively, not shyly, but with a firm, confident grip. In public, in front of everyone. It was as if a spotlight had been switched on, illuminating them for the entire town to see. Every head turned. She heard a few audible gasps. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, but Jake didn't let go. His hand was warm and strong around hers, an anchor in a sea of judgment. He held her hand as if it were the most natural thing in the world, as if they belonged together, right there, for everyone to see. In that single, simple act, he told her what words never could, that love wasn't meant to fit in. It was meant to stand out. They eventually left the noise of the fair behind, finding their way to the quiet edge of the lake. The moon cast a silver path across the dark water, and the sky was a blanket of stars. They sat on the cool grass, the silence now filled, not with tension, but with a newfound peace. "I used to hate my height," Elena confessed, her voice barely above a whisper, her gaze fixed on the shimmering stars. "It made me different." She had said it as a lament, the echo of an old sorrow. Jake turned to her, a gentle smile playing on his lips. His eyes reflected the starlight, deep and sincere. "It still does," he agreed. "But different is the only thing that ever changes the world." He looked directly into her eyes then, his gaze so fearless, so full of belief in her, that it took her breath away. He wasn't just accepting her difference, he was celebrating it. And somewhere in that quiet moment, between the judging stares of the town and the infinite stars above, something inside her shifted. A lifetime of feeling cursed, of wishing she could be smaller, began to dissolve. She realized that Jake was right. Being tall wasn't a flaw to be hidden. It wasn't something to be ashamed of. It was simply a part of who she was, a part that made her stand out, a part that made her, her. Somewhere between the stairs and the stars, she realized. Being tall was never her curse. It was her crown. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories that find the beauty in being different. We'll see you in the next one.